StraightAllDay.com.
Before we start, please like and comment on this video so I can get your feedback. Also, click that subscribe button so you can get all the new content I'm dropping on this channel. And the free book, the mental handbook, physical book, Work on Your Game University, just take care of the shipping and handling, send this right to your doorstep. Let's get started. What's going on, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. We are back with the 2017 NBA season previews. This team today is the Dallas Mavericks. Last year went 42-40, so a respectable season that they had. I wouldn't say a good season given all the veterans that they have on their roster. I think this team is full of guys who want to compete for a championship. Lost in the first round of the playoffs. Let's take a look at who they have on their roster this year, who's coming in, and what we can expect from the Mavericks coming up. Rick Carlisle still coaching, one of the best coaches in the NBA, I think, Carlisle, which is why he's kept his job in Dallas for so long. Looking at this Mavericks roster, Quincy AC is on we have to call this a training camp roster. I'm recording this in mid-September for those who don't know, early mid-September for those who don't know. So these rosters have more than the maximum number of players on them, but we're just going to base it on what we have here and any pieces of information I've picked up from any news that I've seen. So Quincy AC is on the training camp roster. JJ Barea, and let me talk about returning players first. So Quincy AC, we know, is a new guy. JJ Barea is on this roster from last year. Devin Harris, another point guard. Darren Williams, Darren Williams is still on the roster. I think Raymond Felton is gone from Dallas. They had a lot of guards, a lot of point guards last year, so Raymond Felton's gone. But with JJ Barea, also Devin Harris and Darren Williams and Ray Felton, all four of those guys were on the team last year. I don't know why they had all those point guards. But Raymond Felton is not on this roster right now, so I believe he's probably signed with somebody else. Who, I don't even remember. But if I see his name on another preview, I'll talk about Raymond Felton. Other than that, Wesley Matthews at the two-guard spot. I know he's had some injury issue, but with Wesley Matthews, I think is definitely a solid player. He's a good team guy. He's not a guy who needs to have the ball in his hands a whole lot. He's a guy who will play hard defense for you. He can hit that outside shot and help space the floor and play deep, and that's what you need. You need a pace and space type guys. So 2014-15, Wesley Matthews, I think he hurt himself late in that season. Last year in Dallas, he played all of the season. He played 78 games, 34 minutes a game. So he was definitely out there in the mix. Shot damn near 7 3-pointers a game. This guy shoots a lot of threes. 36%, which is respectable. 12 points per game, 2 assists, 3 rebounds. So he doesn't do much other than that. He'll get you a steal a game. But other than hitting those outside shots, it's pretty much what you're going to get from Wes Matthews, and you're going to get that D. Definitely a solid guy to have on the team. I think he's a guy you want to have on your roster. If you're going to compete, he can help you compete. Now, is he a starter on the team that's going to contend? I'd say he'd probably be your 6th man or 7th man on the team to contend, which is not a knock on him. I think that's a positive thing. But let's look at who else Dallas has here. Dirk Nowitzki, obviously, 7 feet tall, 245 pounds, 38 years old. Probably a year or two more in the league for Dirk. And other than that, let's look at the new guys. Dallas does have some new pickups who definitely need to be discussed. Seth Curry and Quincy AC are training camp guys. Who knows if they're going to be ending up on the team. I think since both of them have been rotation guys or somewhere on the roster guys on other teams in the league, I think they will both figure out a way to get in there, or Dallas will figure out a way to get them in there. And then there's 2 other pickups here that I want to talk about. That is the 2 Golden State guys, Harrison Barnes and Andrew Bogut, both coming into the Dallas Mavericks. Let's take a look at Andrew Bogut first. Andrew Bogut is a big man who doesn't get as much credit as I think he should get. He should get more credit for being a really solid big man than he actually gets. And I think one of the reasons is because he was the #1 pick in the draft. So people kind of, when you hear #1 pick in the draft, you're expecting a certain type of output. Andrew Bogut hasn't been that type of player. He hasn't been a franchise, build the team around me, give me the ball every time type of guy, though he was a #1 pick, but he's been a solid guy. The thing with Andrew Bogut is he gets injured a lot. He gets injured often. His first season in the league, he played all 82 games, and that is the only time in his career he's played all 82 games, and that was in Milwaukee. Got up to 78 games his 3rd year in the league. His peak was in Milwaukee 2010 when he averaged 16 points, 10 rebounds a game, 2.5 blocks. I mean, solid. I think he may have been an all-star that year. Ever since coming to Golden State in 2012, He has not played more than 70 games. And 70 is not a bad amount. He played 70 games last year, only played 21 minutes a game. Only shot the ball 4 times. He barely touches the ball. He still gets you a block and a half in that small amount of time. So he's a strong defender. He's a great passer. He still gets you 2 assists a game, which is not any type of whopping stat. But he's a great ball movement guy. He's a guy who will move that ball around. And he understands the team concept. He's not a guy like, I want the ball in the post, and if I'm not getting my post touches, I'm not happy. He's a guy who's okay with not being the guy getting the ball a lot. He's really about that team concept. So Andrew Bogut, I think, is really going to help the Dallas Mavericks team, and they're not going to ask him to do anything more than they need Andrew Bogut to do, which is what he's been doing when he was playing in Golden State. And I think he'll actually get some more minutes playing for the Mavericks than he did playing for the Golden State Warriors. Now, Harrison Barnes was Dallas Mavericks' big splash this offseason. They signed him to a contract that's going to pay him $22 million this upcoming season. Now, is Harrison Barnes worth that much money? Is he worth being the highest paid player on a roster of a team that's going to do anything? I think we would all have to agree the answer is no, he's not. He's 24 years old. He's not going to turn 25 until the playoffs of next year, at which point, who knows if Dallas is even going to be playing. So this guy is still young. He's still we can still call this guy a developing player, even though he's been in the NBA for 4 years. Seems like he's been in the league longer than that. Harrison Barnes has prototypical size, 6'8", 225 pounds, athletic. He can get up and dunk on you. He can hit the three-point shot. He can put the ball on the floor. He can play defense. He can post up. There isn't any skill that Harrison Barnes is completely lacking as far as if we just look at his game. Look at what he's done since he's been in the league. He's been the starter. Was a starter when he first came into the league with Golden State in 2012-2013 season. Averaged about 10 points a game that year. As a rookie, he was a solid rookie. His next year came off the bench a lot more. Still gave you a good 10 points a game. Harrison Barnes did. Next year, 2015, got back into the starting lineup. Been a starter these last 2 years. Was a starter on that championship team. And again, giving you pretty much know what you're going to get from Harrison Barnes. You're going to get about 10 points per game. You get about 4 to 5 rebounds. An assist and a half, maybe a half a steal, not much in the blocks category. He's a good three-point shooter. He shoots around 38-40% from the three-point line. Doesn't get that many shots, and on his Golden State roster, the way that they've been playing, he was definitely the last option on the team. Now he's coming into Dallas, where they're paying him to pretty much be, if I was just looking at the numbers, not knowing anything about the player, I would think Dallas is paying Harrison Barnes to be the next person, the bridge from the Dirk era to the Harrison Barnes era for the Dallas Mavericks to remain competitive. I don't think Harrison Barnes is going to deliver at that level. I really don't think he's going to deliver at that level. And Dirk is actually the highest paid player at $25 million a season. I don't know how much Dallas is really expecting from Harrison Barnes. Again, based on what they're paying him, I think they're expecting a lot. But I also think, just based on the eye test, watching Harrison Barnes play for the last 4 years that he's been in the NBA, how could you possibly expect any much more than pretty much what he's giving you? I just don't think mentally Harrison Barnes is the kind of guy who is going to be the number one guy on a competitive team. I don't think he'd be the number one guy even on a bad team. So I don't know what the Dallas Mavericks are. Again, the fans. I don't know what the fans are expecting from Harrison Barnes. But I think he'll get a chance with Chandler Parsons out of there. Looking at this roster, he is actually, aside from Dorian Finney-Smith, he is the only other listed small forward. And Quincy Acy is listed as a small forward. He's definitely not a small forward. Quincy Acy is a power forward. Harrison Barnes is the only small forward other than that. And this guy, Nicholas Brucino, who I don't even know who he is, are the only other small forwards on this roster. So Harrison Barnes, I see, is starting from day one. Also on Dallas's roster, Darren Williams at point guard, 32 years old. J.J. Barea at point guard, 32. Seth Curry, I think, may make the roster. And Devin Harris at point guard is 33. Dallas needs some youth at the point guard position. They need some youth, and they need someone who is, I don't know. These guys, J.J. Barea, Darren Williams, and Devin Harris, good players. All good players. All at times have been actually really great. Devin Harris has been an all-star. Darren Williams has been one of the best point guards in the league. And J.J. Barea, well, he's been a guy who can come in spurts. Not even in spurts, I wouldn't call it that. As a higher level than that. Comes off the bench and can change the pace of a team. The year Dallas won the championship, J.J. Barea played a huge role in that. He was killing, who was playing point guard for the Heat? I think it was Mike Bibby was point guard for the Heat back then. He was killing Mike Bibby because Mike Bibby couldn't guard anybody. He could not guard J.J. Barea, and J.J. was going at him, and really causing problems for the Heat. The Heat didn't really have an answer for him out there during that playoff run, during that series itself. So these guys are all good, but are you winning the championship when any of them is your starting point guard now in 2017? I say no. Deron Williams, I don't know what happened to Deron Williams. He was one of the best players in the league. There was a time, for those who remember, when people had a solid argument that Deron Williams was better than Chris Paul. There was a time that argument existed and the stats backed it up. What happened to Deron Williams since, I do not know. I know he's had some injuries, but I don't think he's had anything super catastrophic. He wasn't a super high flyer before that. So I have no idea what happened with Deron Williams. I think it's definitely more a mental thing. As far as Devin Harris, I mean, he pretty much is who he is. And JJ Barea is who he is. So they're not bad players, but are you winning a championship when any of them is your starting point guard? Unless you got a great team around them, I say no. Wes Matthews, I think, is a bench guy on a championship team. Harrison Barnes is a guy who might not even get in the game on a championship team based on how he's played the last 2 years. Maybe it was the system that was holding him back, maybe not. Andrew Bogut, I believe, could be the starting center on a winning championship team. You put Andrew Bogut, let's say, on the Miami Heat. Put Andrew Bogut on the Miami Heat last season when they lost to Toronto because they didn't have a backup big man after Whiteside went down. I think the Heat probably wins that series if they had Andrew Bogut instead of having to put, who would they put at center? Joe Johnson and Luol Deng at center. So I think Andrew Bogut can actually help a team win a championship as a starter. Dirk, definitely. Even at his advanced age, he shouldn't be the number one guy anymore. But they need to have another number one guy. Dirk can be the number two guy and come in spots and do his thing to win that championship. Can Rick Carlisle coach a championship team? Of course he can. Looking at the rest of the roster, I don't think Dallas has too much to compete. I see this team getting to the first round again. They're good enough to make it to the first round, and they're not going to win. They're going to lose in the first round of playoffs again. I think this may be Dirk's last year in the league. This should be the last year of Deron Williams, Devin Harris, and JJ Barea being on his team. If Dallas plans on competing moving forward, they're going to need to rebuild. Once Dirk leaves, it's going to be rebuilding time. Harrison Barnes is not going to keep them playoff level competitive as the best player on the team after Dirk. So this team's going to make the playoffs this year. They're going to lose in the first round. Dirk needs to get out of there so they can get that money off the salary cap. If he wants to play another season, I guess nobody can tell him that he can't. And then with Harrison Barnes on the books at $22 million a year, they got to get somebody in there. They got to get a superstar player in there. Harrison Barnes is not it. So Dallas Mavericks fans, I don't know if this is even disappointing to you. I think you know who's on the team. You've seen it. You know what's going on. You saw them sign Harrison Barnes. I don't think you're expecting anything different than what I said. But if I got it wrong, if it's something that I didn't say or something you just want to add to it, whether you agree or disagree, leave it down there in the comments. As for this team review, that's pretty much it. Dallas Mavericks, I say they won 42 games last year. They lost Chandler Parsons, picked up Harrison Barnes, and they picked up Andrew Bogut. I think Bogut's an upgrade. I say they win 46 to 47 games this upcoming season. So I believe they get better as long as they stay healthy. So it's always the caveat that a team has to stay healthy for things to shake out how I think they're going to shake out. So as long as they stay healthy, I say they can win 46, 47 games. Maybe move up a little bit in the Western Conference playoff seeding. But still, looking at the top teams in the West, I think OKC is going to fall down a little bit. You still got the Clippers. You still have the Spurs. You still have Golden State. I think Dallas, if they can get into that 5 seed, hey, maybe they can win a first round playoff series. Is there a team in the West that I forgot about? No, not really. Maybe the Portland Trailblazers. I say, yeah, Dallas still losing the first round. They're going to lose in the first round no matter. If they end up in a bottom 4 seed, they're going to lose to that higher seeded team. Now, if they get a top 4 seed, let's say they get the 4th seed, they can win. They can beat Portland. I don't think Portland's an unbeatable team, but looking at their guards, if it was Portland against Dallas, I'd say Portland wins just because Dallas doesn't have any guards who can keep up with their guards. So, yeah, back to what I said. Dallas loses in the first round. So that's it. Next team we're going to cover is going back to the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons. Everybody, leave the comments down there on this one. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.